Hi, my name is John Wells. I'm the Watershed Operations Supervisor for Salt Lake City Public Utilities. I manage 7 rangers that come up and manage the canyons via patrols and maintenance of facilities. We consider ourselves fortunate to have this as our office.
My name is Patrick Nelson. I'm the Watershed Program Manager for the Salt Lake City Department of Public Utilities. The chief goal never changes year-round. It's just to keep the water as it flows into the creek, as it flows down to our treatment plants, as clean as possible.
We look at first, what are the vulnerabilities of our water system? And the vulnerabilities in the canyons have to do with pollution related to development and recreational use.
But it's such an elegant water supply. As demand goes up, the runoff gets higher and higher, and we just keep getting more water. We get about 50 to 60% of our water supply from the snowpacks in our watersheds.
Everything you see around here is going to melt, go into the creek, and go into our treatment plant. It then eventually gets treated. About 24 hours later, it's coming out and going into our distribution system.
We have a team of watershed rangers who regularly visit these watersheds and help educate the public on leaving no trace and how they can help protect our water resources. And they also do things like clean out many of the bathrooms that exist at trailheads in the canyons.
Even though this belongs to the Forest Service, Salt Lake City paid for this restroom, one at Donut Falls, another one at Little Mountain. All of them are Forest Service toilets. But we paid for them. The Forest Service doesn't have the funding it used to, and there was a need, and Salt Lake City recognizes that need, and it's in our best interest to have these facilities up and running.
A long time ago, and I don't want to tell you how long ago, but I worked at the Salt Lake Ranger District, and they had a 20-person trail crew. And you'd think with the growth that we've had up here, if you look at the growth of outdoor recreation in Utah, we would probably have a lot more trails if you consider how many miles of trail. But that trail crew is now 5, and there's a nonprofit helping out, raising independent dollars to pay for funds up here. So the trail crews have actually diminished. And that is just one sort of example of the greater diminishment in budgets of our federal partners.
Well, and this recently happened with the federal government shutdown, and the Forest Service was not able to manage some of their trailhead facilities and do things like maintain restrooms. And yet we have a lot of people visiting and recreating in these canyons that rely on these facilities. And so we step up to the plate.
During the shutdown, we had 3 people working on these for 4 hours to dig these out. This was solid ice. We had to come up with a couple 5-gallon buckets of salt poured in there so our sewer crew from Salt Lake City Public Utilities can come up here and get a Vactor around to actually pump these out because it was frozen solid, as you can imagine. This is the chute that we have to dig out. Every storm cycle, you can see we have about 6 feet of snow on either side at this point, and that's all settled out. So it's quite a bit of an effort to be able just to get to this 30 feet to get back to the restrooms. And these vaults aren't usually maintained in the wintertime. We've had extreme use this year. As you know, the population in the canyons is just overwhelming at this point.
We have 5 million people a year visiting these watersheds, and everyone's actions could improve water quality or it could be a detriment to water quality. We all leave a footprint, and it's important for people to be aware of that footprint that we leave.
The reason why these areas are public lands is because over 100 years ago, the city leaders saw that the water coming out of the canyons was dirty. And at that time, the Forest Service was being created by Teddy Roosevelt and Gifford Pinchot. And there was a lot of discussion about Utah and its water supply, especially down in our valley. And so over time, city leaders lobbied Washington to create a forest reserve. And the primary goal of this forest reserve, and it still is to this day, and for the Tri-Canyon area, which includes Big Cottonwood, Little Cottonwood, and Mill Creek, Parleys, is for water quality. And so for over 100 years, we've been working with the Forest Service to keep the water coming out of the Cottonwood Canyons and other source water areas clean.
So that's why we find it very critical to step up and help out during the federal government shutdown. It benefits all of our residents that rely on clean water.
We've been protecting the resource. We're dedicated to it, if the government shuts down again, my guys will be back up here. I'll be back up here. We'll be shoveling. We'll be cleaning. We'll be cleaning things that in restrooms that nobody wants to go near. But it's in our best interest for the city. It's in everybody. That's what we get paid for. And frankly, we get to be up in these mountains, so we're pretty lucky to be able to do it.